welcome to the April 30th, 2019 Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education meeting. I am Shay Woodbury, Board Chair, and I appreciate your attendance. And also say good evening to our viewers on Cable 2. Will you please rise as we start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance? And please remain standing as our invocation will be given tonight by Board Member, Lyda Calvert-Haynes. Sorry, I had a moment. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. We ask that you watch over these proceedings tonight and that you grant us wisdom as we make decisions affecting the lives of our young people. We ask for your guidance as we attempt to do what we believe is best for our children. Finally, we ask for your blessing upon everyone involved in the Forsyth County education process, including all our teachers, administrators, parents, and most of all, the children, as they are our future. Amen.
Thank you. Before our first order of business tonight, I would like to make an announcement that tonight's public comment sections are limited to 30 minutes each. We have a very robust agenda tonight, and also a lot of the board members plan to attend the May 1st Raleigh event tomorrow. So we want to make sure that we are able to arise early and be there in the morning. So we appreciate your patience tonight with the limitation with public comments. So first on the agenda, we need to look at the agenda review, and if there aren't any recommendations, then we can, if someone can make a motion.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think we need to go back to closed session.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was going to amend the
Okay,
agenda
yeah.
to include a closed session.
Okay, is there a motion to amend the agenda? The second, I think.
Motion to approve and amend.
Any discussion, questions?
I just have a question, and this, I don't know when to ask it, so I'll do it now when we're doing the agenda. So is normally our policy that we limit the comments? Or what,
So,
or
no,
do we
that-
have to vote on that, or that's just a discretion anytime?
It was so according to Dion, that it is up to the discretion of the chair to be
Okay.
able to limit to 30 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, you're welcome. Is all in favor? All right, thank you. So next we have our special recognitions, and first we will have Mr. David Daggett to come up.
Thank you, and I'll have join me Angelina Rice and Stephanie Messer. And please hold your applause for them until I tell you, because you'd be clapping all the time. They're so wonderful. This is, would you like to address them? Okay, Madam Chair, Dr. Symington, School Board, and family, friends, and audience. This is the 29th year of the Safe Sober Prom Night program. It is in 50 high schools in 10 counties, all across the Triad. More than 500,000 students have taken the pledge over that number of years to be safe and sober on prom night. And one of the highlights of the program is the T-shirt design contest. So briefly, Safe Sober Prom Night is to, number one, raise awareness. For the students, it's awareness of the dangers of drugs and alcohol. For parents and community and others, it's awareness of what our young people are going through today. And I've mentioned in the past that when I started the program 29 years ago, I was surprised at the number of students that came from single-parent households. Now, I'm surprised at the number of students that come from no-parent households. Angelina has allowed me to share with you that her parents haven't been in her life since she was born. She's fortunate that her grandparents, Mr. and Ms. Tart, are here, and they've taken very good care of her. But we all need to wrap our arms of encouragement and support around these young people, because this is common in our community, and we need to be aware of that. Second is where the t-shirt design contest comes in, is the most positive thing and the most positive pressure on young people is positive peer pressure. The Safe Sober Prom Night program is designed around positive peer pressure. A highlight of that program is the t-shirt design contest. We get hundreds of entries from all the counties, all across the triad. They're scanned into the computer. The selection committee goes in them completely blind. This year's winner, Angelina Rice. We have the first shirt off the press framed. That will be given to her at the awards ceremony with the principal, Ms. Walker, and everybody at her home school, Walkertown High School, and that will be quite an event. We did surprise her and show her that first frame shirt in her high school classroom, Ms. Messer's classroom at the Career Center, where we had the mayor, the chief of police, the chair of the county commissioners, several school board members, 3 Superior Court judges, and a huge part of our community supporting the positive peer pressure of our young people. So let us show you the shirt quick. This is Angelina's design. Part of the cool part for the student is there's 15,000 of these in the original printing. We just had a second delivery at our office earlier this week, so we're printing more. Her name and school, for her, it's both Career Center and Walkertown, is on the back of all 15,000 of the shirts, so she gets recognition for that. You can hold that, Angelina. And that's the positive peer pressure. When we started 29 years ago, I had to grab students' hands to make them sign. They would then take the t-shirt, stick it in their book bag or inside their coat and hide it because it wasn't cool. Now, if you come to a school with us, which we're in 15 this week, I tell our volunteers you have to stand back because there's a stampede of students to sign. A lot of them put on the shirts right there, wear it as a badge of honor around the school. So that's the positive peer pressure. The third part is the community support. The community support starts with the teachers. I want to introduce Ms. Stephanie Messer. Ms. Messer's an art teacher at the Career Center. Astonishingly, the winning design, completely blind selection, has come out of her classroom 10 years in a row. Wow. The reason that happens is, and I see hundreds, thousands of teachers, and mostly fabulous, is we have absolutely wonderful teacher leaders who wrap their arms of encouragement and support around our young people. I would suggest to you that Ms. Messer's one of the best you have in our school system, and that's not separating her out from anybody else, but she's absolutely fabulous. When she walked in this evening, she has been on leave because she had recent surgery. When she walked in this evening, Angelina hasn't seen her for a week and a half. There was a teary hug and embrace right here, and that's what teachers mean to our young people, and I'm very proud of that. And then all of you, it takes all of us to wrap our collective arms of encouragement and support around our young people. They need it. They deserve it. Our school board has always encouraged that, and we appreciate that. Madam Chair, thank you so much for having us.
So on behalf of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education, I would like to recognize Angelina Rice for your winning design for the Safe Prom Promise. And I would also like to recognize Stephanie Messer as a teacher and leader here in our school district for what you do for our students. Thank you so much. If there are any folk here to, of course, make sure that you're here to recognize Angelina Rice, please stand up so that we can see where her support system, if there are anybody here to thank you so much. We appreciate you. These are her grandparents. Thank you. And if you would go and shake the hands of the other board members, we would really appreciate it. Yes, absolutely. Again, on behalf of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education and our superintendent, Dr. Simonton, we are forever thankful for Mr. David Daggett's support and commitment in our community to help our students stay safe during prom time. We know that so many different things could happen to our students at this time, so your commitment, I remember when I was in high school, and I don't mean to. You're forever young in our community. But I just really appreciate your commitment to make sure that our students are safe during prom. Thank you so much.
And if you would excuse us as a coincidence, it's Miss Messer's daughter's birthday, my son's birthday, and Angelina's grandfather's birthday, all today.
Happy birthday. Can we all say?
And Madam Chair, if I could also recognize that David Daggett volunteers in numerous ways in our school system, but also as a volunteer wrestling coach at high school. So thank you for that, too.
Thank you very much. Our next recognition will come from Miss Sarah Harmon with the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools Character Education Award.
Good evening. Let me first start by saying tonight is one of my favorite nights because we are going to be recognizing the Character Education Award winners for our district. Dr. Simonton and members of the board, it is my honor to recognize our district's 2018-2019 elementary, middle, and high school Character Education Award winners who were blindly selected by a community committee of over 100 student nominations. This year's recipients each embody the district's 7 pillars of character, which are courage, caring, perseverance, self-discipline, respect, responsibility, and integrity. I would like to start by recognizing this year's elementary award winner, a 4th grader at Whitaker Elementary School, who was nominated by Mr. Bob Snyder. Will you all join me in offering congratulations for Hugh Fitzgerald? It is my pleasure to tell you a little bit about Hugh based on the nomination that was submitted by Mr. Snyder. Hugh is a very well-rounded young man. He's an excellent student academically, is an athlete, and is a good citizen. He is caring and decided of his own accord to become a vegan due to his concern for animals and their welfare. He shows empathy toward others and doesn't think only of himself. When he received a Starbucks gift card for Christmas, he chose to give it to the school crossing guard because she was cold. He figured that she could get something warm, and he couldn't figure out how to bring coffee because he bikes to school. He bikes approximately 10 minutes to and from school most days, which indicates his parents know he is responsible, and explains how he knew the crossing guard must be cold on those winter mornings. The school's guidance counselor also knows he is responsible and chose him to tutor a 2nd grader 2 days a week in the morning, and despite this extra duty, he still gets all his work done. Hugh is respectful of both teachers and other students. He displays manners and is willing to work with other classmates, not just his friends. He maintains good relationships with all of his classmates regardless of their differences. Hugh displays integrity and will always tell the truth, even if the consequences might be detrimental to him. He has a strong moral compass and seems to innately distinguish right from wrong. Hugh's 2nd grade teacher, Miss Stevens, said, "Hugh is one of the most selfless students I've ever taught. He is funny, witty, and has a personality that makes all other students want to be around him. He is a great role model and is just one of those students that teachers love to have in their class." Miss Hirsch said, "As Hugh's 3rd grade teacher, I have wonderful memories of our year together. Hugh has an appreciation for life. He approaches everything with a sense of vigor. He also has a kind heart. He is sensitive to the feelings of those around him. After the loss of my dog, I was brokenhearted. Hugh made a card for me that I still have hanging up in my home. He always has a cheerful disposition and certainly kept me smiling last year. He always stops by my room every morning to say hello and maybe visit the pet fish. It means so much to me that he takes the time to say hello. Hugh's character qualities run deep. He is truly deserving of this award. Miss Locker, who has known Hugh for many years, said, "Hugh Fitzgerald is beyond the masses. He is kind, responsible, helpful, calm, and other-centered. Hugh has a sense for other people's needs and uses his self-sufficiency to be a leader." I would like to ask anyone attending tonight's meeting to celebrate Hugh's accomplishment to please stand and be recognized as well. Thank you. Please join me in offering congratulations for this year's middle school winner, Isael Omero Mayo, an 8th grader at Flat Rock Middle School. Isael was nominated by Miss Deb Fadali, who wrote, "Isael is the epitome of responsibility. He is an avid reader and leads the school in reading. His goal has been to read all of the books in the Media Center. At the rate of 680 to 750 a year, he is making a dent in it. This dedication to reading is not the norm for his peers, yet he perseveres daily. He is an English as a second language student, but yet he reads much more than those whose primary language is English. This is Isael's second year as a media helper. He is the most regular and conscientious worker that we've had in our library. His goal is to leave the library with all tasks completed every day. He always suggests books to others and has convinced a few of his non-reader friends to begin reading for pleasure. At times, we have to explain the integrity required in being a media helper and respecting others' privacy. This has never been an issue for Isael, as he is great about assisting without prying. Isael is also active in school sports and clubs. He has competed on our school soccer team for the last 2 years, is in the Fellowship of Christian Students Club, and this year, Isael also participated on the Battle of the Books competition team. On the BOB team, he showed maturity and confidence as he jumped in and supported his school. He was a wonderful example of caring and respectfulness for the 6th grade students on the team. He is friendly and kind, but knows when to follow directions. I have observed his self-discipline in both BOB competition while working in the Media Center and in his regular interactions with his peers. We will truly miss this wonderful young man next year. One of his study skills teachers, Ms. Walker, states, Isael is a polite and dedicated student. He comes to class prepared and gives his best effort every day. Ms. Hobson, another of his teachers, said, I am so very proud of him for winning this award. The popular definition of character is doing the right thing when no one is watching. He is that definition. I've had the pleasure of having Isael in my class for 2 years. He is an outstanding and upstanding young man. I wish there were more students like him. I wish him good luck and hope he enjoys high school and continues to grow in academics, social settings, and dealing with his peers. I would like to ask anyone attending tonight's meeting to celebrate Isael's accomplishment to please stand and be recognized as well. And finally, please join me in offering congratulations for this year's high school winner, Destiny Griffin, a senior at West Forsyth High School. Destiny was nominated by Miss Brittany Cox, and she wrote, and I'm sorry, but we couldn't shorten this because it was too good. Destiny has an unwavering perseverance, self-discipline, and responsibility. She is a great student, unbelievable athlete, and the oldest of 10 children. Since her freshman year, her responsibilities have included much more than working to maintain a 3.2 GPA and participating in extracurricular activities such as sports and the Black Achievers Club. She has worked extremely hard in the classroom and competed at the highest level in athletics, all while balancing a part-time job on the weekends and helping her family in any way that she can. Only the people who know her best know all the things she has taken on to help her family, peers, teachers, and coaches. This winter, she competed in 2 sports, track and field and basketball, during the winter season. She won a state championship in indoor shot put while breaking school records in the process. She also won a state championship in women's basketball, scored over 1,000 career points, and was named the team's most outstanding player, among several other accolades. Both those achievements pale in comparison, though, to the legacy she's left at our school because of her character. All of Destiny's teachers speak highly of her because regardless of everything she's had on her plate, she's refused to make excuses and entered the classroom with a smile every day. This school year, she was named West Forsyth Student of the Month because of her hard work and self-discipline. You expect students in high school to make mistakes because that's part of growing up. However, Destiny shows wisdom beyond her years because she knows that she has 9 siblings who look up to her. She has patience like no one I've ever met and puts others before herself every chance she gets. Our basketball team unanimously voted for her as a captain because of the caring nature and the selflessness she shows on a daily basis. Our younger players followed her every move because of her great leadership. In the preseason, we were going through an intense drill, and one of the younger teammates got frustrated and scolded someone in her group. Instead of yelling, Destiny pulled the teammate aside, put her arm around her, and calmly explained that teammates don't yell at one another, but instead lift each other up. She explained that we have to act the way we would want to be treated, especially when we're faced with adversity. When Destiny was younger, someone told her that she would never be able to play at the Division I level in sports. For some kids, that would hold them back from achieving their dream. For Destiny, it did the opposite. She's had people tell her that she can't several times in her life, but she continued to focus on the things she could control, stay positive, and never give up. When Destiny has faced adversities in her life, she's gracefully turned them into triumphs. As a result, she is going to East Carolina University next year on a scholarship for track and field. Everyone at our school knows Destiny because she has achieved so much success and received so many accolades in athletics during her time at West. But everyone truly loves her because they know how rare it is to meet someone her age with such a positive and inspiring perspective. I can't put into words just how much Destiny has meant to our school community, but I know my life has forever been changed because of her. Without a doubt, anyone who has been blessed to get to know her has certainly become better as a result. Miss Ann Adkins, a chemistry teacher at West, said, "Destiny is the epitome of a student athlete. She is dedicated to success both on and off the court. She does not see problems, she sees challenges, and she gives her best effort in everything she does, whether it's doing a lab in chemistry, working on classwork problems, practicing basketball, or participating in a track event. Destiny values learning and understands that struggling is part of growth. She is respectful, mature, responsible, and most importantly, she is kind to everyone. Destiny has embraced her challenges and used her experiences to develop into an outstanding young woman and an integral part of the West Forsyth Titan family." Miss Boger, a West Forsyth math teacher, said, "Destiny is dedicated to young women. Destiny is a dedicated young woman with an awesome heart. She not only juggles school and sports, but also helps with her siblings while maintaining a positive attitude and good grades. She was an awesome student, and I cherish my time getting to know her." I would like to ask anyone attending tonight's meeting to celebrate Destiny's accomplishment to please stand and be recognized as well.
Thank you, Ms. Harmon, for your hard work. We would like to ask the students to come up and shake the hands of the board members. So we would really like to shake your hands. You can just come around, and thank you so much. Our next item on the agenda is the public comments for the agenda. At this time, we will hear public comments, and please know we reserve this time to hear comments only on the items that are on tonight's agenda, either for action or discussion. Direct your comments to me as the chair, and know that while we are not able to respond, I may direct you to a staff member that can answer a question when appropriate. We do ask that you be respectful, kind, and know we cannot talk about sensitive and private student or personnel information in this public setting. While we hope that it doesn't create a scenario with personal attacks, it being contentious or otherwise disruptive, I reserve the right to end the comment period. You have 3 minutes to speak, and if you have more to share, always know you can email us directly. Thank you. Our first person is Ms. Rhonda Mays. She will have comments about the budget.
Good evening, Chairwoman Woodbury, the board, and Dr. Symington. I'm Rhonda Mays, a school social worker here in the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School District, serving as full-time release president of Forsyth County Association of Educators. I just want to come before you to express our concern, to make certain that we are all still in agreement about just asking. There was a committee formed to look at the supplement as well as the hourly wage for our education support professionals here in our district. We spent a number of hours in this committee and a lot of time and a lot of staff time. And so now we know what the figures are. We know what we are needing in order to make certain that our supplement is pulled up and we rank at least in the top 5. That's where I really want us to be number 1, but I'll settle for the top 5. And also to make certain that our education support professionals are not living in poverty or very close to the poverty level. Last year, the state made a decision to increase the wages of state employees, except for those who are in our school districts across North Carolina and in our community colleges. They made the decision to increase the wage to $15 an hour, but they left our educators, our education support professionals out of that equation. Yes, we're going tomorrow to ask them to right that wrong, but here locally, we also need to make certain that if they don't do it, that we make certain that it's done. And if they do it at the state level, then that means that there will be more funds to use for something else. So please remember to just ask. So therefore, we don't have to resort to more social media blitzes about just asking, because we know that this board will just ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jessica Sica, I think is the correct pronunciation of your last name.
I'm going to do my best. I'm going to read off my phone. I'm really nervous. My name is Jessica Sica. I am a mother of 4 children who attend Ibrahim Elementary. I'm sure you're well aware that this has been a rough year for us for many reasons that we're not going to get into tonight.
Ms. Sica, but I don't mean to interrupt.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
I promise.
Okay.
All of which are safety concerns, which is where the budget comes in. What I'm asking after meeting with a few of you, speaking with you, as well as our county commissioners, is that we somehow find money in our budget to put SROs in our elementary schools. Given the safety concerns that we've experienced throughout the whole year, I think they would be an amazing asset to our administrators to kind of alleviate some of the things we're experiencing. My family is from the Sandy Hook area, and my uncle was down the street when this was happening. And as somebody who's had their life impacted by something extremely tragic, I'm hoping that the board will hear what I'm saying and protect the youngest, most vulnerable in our community, and at the same protection level that we have in our middle and high schools. That's it.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Stephanie Pretty.
Hey, I'm Stephanie Pretty. I'm pretty much with her. We were trying to talk to y'all with the budget about getting the money necessary for the elementary SROs. Across, I think in Tennessee, they had an issue the other week with elementary and shooting incidents. I think a uniformed officer would have a significant presence among the elementary generation more so. That's pretty much it. We talked to the commissioners, and I think we've talked to several of y'all. I think a lot of you've been to our school too. That's what we're here pushing for, and I know Bobby Kimbrough was going after the extra money to add to that. So we just were trying to show our support for that and for the teachers too. But,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Al Jabar. He's going to focus on the curriculum.
Good evening, Chair Woodbury.
Good evening.
Dr. Simonton, and other esteemed board members. As you know, my name is Al Jabar. I come today to speak, I go to a lot of committee meetings. And for those of you who have time, that's where a lot of the meat hits the table before it gets here. And one of the things that has concerned me for over the last 3 years or so is that the communities has asked for a mandatory African American study. I never hear this discussed. Never have I heard this discussed in a committee meeting that I've been in. And I'm kind of concerned that something that has been proven in other cities to close the achievement gap, to cut down on suspensions, to cut down on the prison pipeline. So my question to this board, we brought this before the previous board, and we intentionally went out and beat the bushes to get you elected. So today we are asking you to take a stand. I know this law is in Raleigh, but if Raleigh don't feel a push from this school board, they would never see why the opportunity is necessary. We spend endless hours discussing this with you guys over the last 3 or 4 years. We have not gotten one step. And that's really a shame that we have black and brown students that's in our schools that don't have a knowledge, basic knowledge of their history, because teachers can choose whether they infuse this or not. So if it's not mandatory, how are we going to get this accomplished? So you are indebted to the people who voted you on this board to make sure that all children understand who they are, their history, and what they can become as a result of knowing their history. So I challenge you again, and until I can see some movement, I'll be back on this, because we can't allow this to continue. Please push this to Raleigh so that we can push behind you so that we can get this accomplished. It's a necessary, absolute necessary necessity in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Sally Hirsch. She is going to be speaking in regards to the curriculum and budget.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, and I'm Sally Hirsch, and I am going to read this. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Coalition for Equity in Public Education, and I'm speaking the words written by Carolyn Highsmith for her tonight. This is the Coalition is a public education advocacy group that has been around since 2015. In April of this year, members of the Equity Coalition listened to a panel of students and a panel of teachers talk about the lack of equity in our school system, especially as a reflection of a continued lack of educational materials available to all students. That is, textbooks, where students of all ethnic backgrounds can see themselves and their experiences in the United States reflected back in all of the books that they are reading, including textbooks. In fact, these teachers advocated strongly that there was an immense lack of culturally significant books available to all students, K through 12, in both the classroom and the school media centers. Our Equity Coalition, which I'm also a member of, believes that this school system must commit to a shared culture that values the dignity and multiculturalism of all students, including the implementation of a new fundamental in public education, a multiculturalism K through 12 curriculum. that embraces the most up-to-date research and scholarship. This includes a mandatory African American studies requirement in the social studies and history curriculum, plus a commitment to acquire the multicultural curricula resources, especially K through 12 library books and textbooks, in conjunction with a major professional development and training and follow-up for all system teachers regarding the adoption of a multicultural curriculum with accompanying textbooks. Therefore, the Equity Coalition is asking, 1, the curriculum committee and the school board adopt fundamental K through 12 multicultural curriculum that includes mandatory African American studies in both the social studies and history classes in this school system, and 2, the school board include funding in the 2019-2020 school system budget for a K through 12 multicultural curriculum with accompanying educational resources, especially library books and textbooks that show a variety of multicultural voices and images to the students in this school system. And 3, funding to be included for the K through 12 textbooks in all subject matters to enhance the educational learning for all school system students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Michelle Jordan.
Good evening, Chair Woodbury, Dr. Simons,
Good
and board
evening.
members. I first just want to thank you guys for standing behind us and shutting down the school system and allowing us to go advocate, and I'm thanking those of you that are going to come and march with us tomorrow so that we can ask from our state and CGA some support in the budget. But speaking to that, I'm here to speak about you guys also just asking our county commissioners and going forward and making sure that we are getting those supplements up so that we're competitive, getting those wages up for our ESPs that are, suffering and living on the poverty level. I don't know how they do it because I basically can't make ends meet as a teacher's salary. So I don't know how they make it with half of what I'm making every month. So I'm just asking that you guys make sure that when you go forward with this budget, I know that there's a lot that you have to look at, that you are still making sure that we are going forward and asking our county commissioners for the monies that we need to support our staff and our infrastructure and everything else that we need so that we can give the best to our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Last, we have Katie Sonnen Lea.
Hi. First, I want to say that I'm here as myself. I'm not here as Action for Equity. I wore my shirt without thinking about it, and Josh made fun of me on the way over here, so I'm just here as Katie today. First off, I want to thank you all for supporting the teachers and the ones who are going to Raleigh tomorrow, and supporting our educators, and also for those of you who advocated on HB 490. I know you were there. Thank you. Appreciate it. I wanted to talk about the project impact funding that's coming through, and when you look at that, the only outcome that's related to the students is just that third grade proficiency on testing improves. That's the only thing. There's nothing about closing the achievement gap. There's nothing about any of these other things that are really related to equity. And if we want to look at how we can help the kids who need it the most, because that's, I think, what these dollars are intended for, then we need to put some accountability around the achievement gap and around equity and those outcomes. I also wanted to say on that, and hearing the stories about the students that were honored here tonight was really great. And I loved that the parents who needed it had translation. I don't know if y'all provided that or if another organization provided that, but if we could do that every time, I think would be great. Because that's so important for them. What a moment. I mean, as a parent, I was like, oh, hope my kids are up here one day. And then lastly, finally, I would encourage the board to get on the same page before the meetings about agenda items so that questions that appear to be divisive don't have to be asked during the meetings and things can get kind of sorted out ahead of time. And we can get out of here earlier. So thanks for going tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you. Our next order of business is the discussion items, and first we will have Dr. Lionel Cato to talk about the Equal Opportunity Schools Partnership.
Good evening, Chair Woodbury, Vice Chair Burke, board members, Dr. Symington, and visitors. I'm Instructional Superintendent Lionel Cato, and I'm here to introduce two guests from an organization called Equal Opportunity Schools. You have been provided some information in your board packets regarding this organization. Our district is hoping to partner with this organization in the near future, and we wanted you all to be in the information loop in case the partnership moves forward. It is a fact that many students of color or students from low socioeconomic backgrounds often missed out on opportunities to enroll in advanced AP or IB courses for a variety of reasons. There are a number of instructional frameworks, college preparatory programs, counseling models, etc., that seek to address these gaps. As part of our district work on equity, access, and acceleration, members of a team recently attended an event in Guilford County where the Equal Opportunity Schools work was showcased. The Equal Opportunity Schools organization offers a comprehensive approach to addressing these gaps while enhancing opportunities for all students, and we felt that it was a good fit for our district. We are fortunate to have with us tonight two representatives of the Equal Opportunity Schools who flew in from Indiana and Texas, respectively, to share more information with you tonight. They are Dr. Nick Wall and Dr. Valerie Peterson, and they are here to share.
Thank you for the opportunity to spend some time in Winston-Salem. We are very happy to be here. A little bit about the partnership that could be part of your world in Winston-Salem. As Dr. Cato said, it is about we're laser focused on finding low-income and students of color that are not in the rigorous courses in the high schools. It's really about elevating the importance and creating opportunity for academic achievement for all students. We do take pride in finding all students that are not in these classrooms that are missing. And we have found in our work across the United States that there are 750,000 low-income and students of color missing from these rigorous courses in our high schools. So our mission is to find these young men and young ladies and give them keys to doors of opportunity that they did not even know existed. I know in my 16 years as a school superintendent, 11 of those in Chicagoland, had a lot of discussions with leaders, administrators, teachers about the difference between equality and equity. And I was just at a national equity project in the Chicagoland last Thursday, Friday, talking with some of the equity leaders in the United States. And I found this one quote that I think kind of grabs that and means a lot to me. Equality is about giving, you have 54,000 students in Winston-Salem in your schools. Equality would be giving 54,000 shoes to these students. Equity is about giving 54,000 shoes that fit to your students. It's about giving the kids, each of them, what they need to succeed. And our mission is to find these young men and young ladies and provide equitable opportunities for them. We've gone deep in the surveys across the United States, over 180 districts in 29 states, interviewed administrators, students, and staff to find out what are some equitable challenges facing those students in high schools across the United States. We work with 540 schools in the United States, in 29 states, and 38,000 first-time AP and IB students that can open a door of opportunity for them. We have found with our work with Stanford that students that graduate from high school, generally in the United States, 30% of those that start college finish college. If a high school student just takes one AP course, that goes to 60% success rate when they go to college. So it is clearly about giving these young men and young ladies opportunities they didn't know existed. I talk with schools all across the Midwest, and I talk with them about the partnership is about shifting adult mindset in the buildings to look at these low-income students and students of color, coupled with creating student self-advocacy opportunities for these young men and young ladies. And I'll show you a student impact card in just a minute. We take pride in the fact that our partnership keeps a stable AP and IB pass rate as well. not only increasing the number of students in these opportunities, but keeping a stable pass rate, because it's not about just filling these classes with students, it's about providing the support so these students can succeed. We did a gap analysis of your district, and this is all your high schools represented in this gap analysis. And the gap analysis tells us where the missing students are in your district by demographic. The white and Asian student population becomes the benchmark for many of the districts. Across the United States, middle and high income white Asian students are disproportionately represented in AP and IB programs. Our goal is to get equity across these groups, and equity means finding the number of students that are missing from each subgroup so that you could say you have an equity high school. Only 1% of high schools in the United States can have the title of equity high school, which means across demographic they're represented in these AP and IB programs. In your district, Hispanic Latino, we have 437 students missing. These students who have the abilities but are missing from the AP classrooms. Black African Americans, 712. And other races and multiracial, 66. So that's just a high-level snapshot of 11th and 12th graders in your high schools to give you a glimmer of the 1,215 missing students that the partnership would help you find. I'm going to let Val speak to the next few slides.
Yeah, so I just would like the opportunity to highlight that partnering with Equal Opportunity Schools is a partnership. A lot of times school districts, and I've been in them across the nation, get bogged down with another program. EOS is, as we call it, is not another program. We work collaboratively and we work in tandem with school teams and with district teams. And what you have here is just a sample of our partnership directors, because we work side by side on the ground in the buildings with the teams to make sure that once we identify who those missing students are, that they are placed appropriately in the courses that are rigorous for them. Not only do we have partnership directors that will be on the ground every year, at least 5 times. We do what's called A for E, which is phase 1, and that's like the year 1, where we look at the stakeholder engagement. We get on the ground and have conversations with school teachers, we have conversations with students, and we have conversations with the teacher leaders. We look at student focus group, and we also look at the demographics. And we utilize a survey, which Dr. Nick is going to talk about really quickly, to give us the information on how we know and how we identify the students that are missing. Once we do that survey, which is very comprehensive and really touches on social and emotional skills and also can give us information on the culture and the climate of a building, we then take that information and meet with school leadership and district leadership to create what's called an equity pathways report. And in that report is a guide that shows us how we are going to work collaboratively with your schools and with your school district. So it also includes some outreach time. Our data is done in real time, so teachers or the leaderships at the school will always have access to the information. And then we help the schools implement best practices that align with the current policies, strategic plans, and other curriculums and things of that nature that are at the school. We also offer 24-hour support from that partnership director that will be assigned to your particular school.
As Val said, this is a partnership, not a program. As a building principal for 10 years and a superintendent for 16, I had no tolerance for adding programs. We don't have time. Teachers that spoke tonight, you guys don't have time in your day for anything. It's about taking the great things that you're doing, looking at the survey information and do a gap analysis and fill in some of the gaps so that these things work in harmony. It's not about more. It's about making it a harmonious working relationship that benefits the students. Now, the days of students going into the guidance counselor's office and saying, this is your GPA and this is your standard test score, these are the courses you should be enrolled in, those days need to go away. I take great pride in blowing up 4 high school guidance programs and making them student-centered, student-initiated, and student self-advocacy models, and the counselors embraced it at all 4 high schools. So this would be a traditional GPA and standardized test score for this young lady, Chloe Adamson. That's the old school way to looking at how kids should be enrolled in courses for next year. The information that is garnered into this Student Insight card is retrieved from the survey instruments that the students do and the staff. And we're going to unpack that here and show you a complete picture of Chloe Adamson. The next thing on the Insight card is we have a picture. Now we have a name with a face. We now take her information and find out that Chloe wants to go to a four-year college. She wants to be an elementary teacher. She has trusted adults at the high school, which is a significant piece of information for all students in all your high schools. Now, if that's blank, that says a lot too. But she has 2 trusted adults there. She is in study skills support with these teachers. The 3 thumbs up show that she has 3 teachers advocating for her to be in an AP course. And her subject interests are social studies, history, and government. We then find out more. In the center of the Student Insight card, we do work with Carol Dweck out of Stanford on the growth mindset, which is, I think, a very valuable piece of any school educator looking at students and how they grow and the mindset of looking how they grow. Embedded in this survey are those questions. And we find out for Chloe, she has academic strategies, she's a community leadership, she's displaying grit and determination that Angela Duckworth talks about in her work, and growth mindset as reflected in how she answered the survey. Then you go to the AP barriers. Why has she not been able to get in these courses? She's had no adult encouragement. She needs more info from staff to enroll. Feels classes are not adequate and courses are not challenging for her. Hasn't enrolled because she doesn't know enough about it. And she has competing interests. She's in sports, she's in CTE, she's in band, so she thinks she has too much to do. And then we get a nice narrative from her about herself. She said, I struggled with grades early in high school because I was bullied by classmates and I couldn't do my homework, which explains her 2.67 GPA. But now no one can stop me from reaching my goals. I'm going to be the first in my family to graduate from college. She'd just like to know she can get an AP course in English for next year. So this Insight card is electronically accessed by anyone in the partnership who you deem as a partner, principals, guidance counselors, teachers, and the students. The students are going to learn a lot about themselves too. So often in education, students take standardized tests. We talk about them, we talk about the test, and the person we leave out of the discussion is the student. This brings the student into the discussion and into the self-advocacy role. And it also allows the adult mindset to shift in that building too. We have a quote from a long-standing partner. All students graduating from his high school and district are not going to be doctors, lawyers, or even college, yet all students deserve an opportunity, and we are the gatekeepers to that opportunity. And as I said before, I see this as giving keys of doors of opportunity to students they never even knew existed. I truly believe that. So that kind of gives you kind of an overview of the partnership and the information. Val and I are here if you have anything. Dr. Cato? Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I have a comment. First of all, I would like to say this is much needed. We did see the numbers on the screen. We already knew, many of us, that we do have disproportionate numbers of students who are from low-income families enrolled in more rigorous, more academically intense AP courses, and we need to change that because we do know that we have students who are not in those courses who are capable of performing and doing well. So I applaud you, Dr. Cato, for bringing this partnership before us to even discuss. I also would like to ask, because you did provide the data, because you do have the numbers, can you tell us about pricing if we were to enter into a partnership?
Yes, we can. And again, it would depend on how many high schools you may want to do, because we can do an economy of scale with the partnership directors. So we're discussing 5, Dr. Cato said. So it's about staffing. We're staffing for next year just like you guys are staffing in your high schools and your schools for next year. We could do an economy of scale. Traditionally, it's $27,000 per high school. It's a matching grant. We give $27,000. you give 27,000. But if we have multiple high schools, we could reduce that rate contingent on how many, because the partnership director would be economized right here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
I have a question. With you being from out of state and coming into our state, how will you have people that are doing this? And do you charge travel? Do you charge lodging? Could you kind of emphasize on where you stand on that and how that exactly works?
Well, the home office is in Seattle, but we're across the United States in 29 states. And partnership directors are not living in Seattle. They're all over the United States. I was just in Chicago. We have partnership directors living in Chicagoland. We have partnership directors living in North Carolina. So the boots on the ground will be people from this region, this state. So travel for them will be minimal. The time here is, the money you spend on their time is time in your buildings working with your equity teams. So we may be based in Seattle, and I'm in Chicagoland and Indiana and Ohio and all over the Midwest, but our partnership directors are across the United States, right? And you have them in North Carolina. We have them in North Carolina too.
So can you give me an example of where you're working in North Carolina now?
Yes, currently working in Guilford County. We are also in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, and we can provide a full list to the board if necessary. In addition, I would like to say that we are very strategic in choosing who that partnership director is that will be assigned to the school district, and we do that in partnership with the school district. So it is not us saying this is where a person is going to go, but it's us having a conversation about the needs of the district and then looking at the expertise of our partnership directors who are former principals, former teachers, former superintendents, community organizers, and things like that to make sure that there's a best fit.
Can you tell us how long you have worked with Guilford and Charlotte?
I don't know that information offhand, but I do know that we are in phase 4, which means they have been with equal opportunity schools over 4 years, so 4 years and up.
Would it be possible to be provided with some data from those two districts? Thank you.
Absolutely, yes, we will provide that to you.
Just one quick question. The missing students on that graph, give us an overview of how you come to that conclusion for each of those demographics.
The goal is to find equity across the group. So we look at the white Asian, you have 1,853, so approximately 52% are represented, total population of white Asian students in your district in AP courses. So to get that kind of equitable representation for your Hispanic Latino, we need to find 437 to get that up to 52% based upon the total population of Hispanic Latino students you have. These are 11th and 12th graders, just for this snapshot in time. Is that helpful?
Right, so your goal is to get the same percentage of each group?
Same representative of that total population, so that's the equity.
So if I can add here just for a visual, if you think about closing the achievement gap or closing the opportunity gap, what we would like to see is where we have our benchmark group, that all groups are, the gap is closed across all of the racial areas.
I think that's all. We appreciate you all's information, and we look forward to hearing more information and getting the data that some of the board members have requested so that we can hopefully move forward for the sake of our children.
We'll get that to Dr. Cato. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next discussion item is the situational analysis overview by Dr. Kenneth Simonton.
Madam Chair, just for a few minutes tonight, I wanted to share with the board the work that the Executive Cabinet has been engaged in related to the situational analysis. At your retreat in February, led by Dr. Coble, there was a good discussion about board members knowing more about the kind of the deep dive of what the work is in the district. So out of that came Executive Cabinet mid-March engaging in a series of meetings where we created a structure for the situational analysis. So we've had meetings with executive cabinet. Approximately 24 departments or sub areas and departments have created work around their strengths. And so those are the things that currently those departments feel like are going well in those departments. Areas around weaknesses, places where we see that there are opportunities or there are actually places we can see some improvement. We also talk about opportunities. So where is there some growth in those particular departments in terms of strategies, in terms of capacity, in terms of performance? And then finally, what are the threats? Are those performance threats? Are those financial threats? Are those resource threats? And so all total across the departments, accountability, communications, finance, human resources, instructional services, operations, student services, down through technology, we have 24 situational analyses. Tonight was not so much a presentation as it was to provide you with an overview of the process to date where we are. More importantly, we hope to, at a later time in a work session, to provide you with each of these situational analyses for these departments. Those analyses will also include an organizational chart for each of the departments. I think you know the faces that represent those departments. Seeing those organizational charts will give you the deep dive into how many folks are in each one of those departments. At a recent finance committee meeting, the board chair asked for what is the relationship between these situational analyses as well as the budgets, and we have not done that piece, but we will take a look at that. So what we intend to do is to provide you with the document, and I'll tell you that document I just shared that it's 24 departments. They were to be no longer than one page back and front. So we're right at 60 pages for you to review. So at the time where we can schedule these, we will share those with the board. We put those in your Power School Learning page, and we look forward to giving you more information about this process. Happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
I would just recommend that, I guess before we go into the deep dive with each of the department heads, that the board be given an opportunity to look at the information so that we can engage appropriately versus just you all feeding us the information. So I would just appreciate the information coming before we actually meet face to face.
So we believe, so when we are able to schedule that first meeting, you will have those materials far in advance of the meeting.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Dr. Simonton. The next item is the 2019-20 preliminary budget proposal by Ms. Kim Slusher.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodbury, Dr. Simonton, and board members. This also is not going to be a presentation, but kind of an overview of where we started and kind of where we're going and headed now. Back in April 23rd, we had an first meeting just to kind of give everybody an overview of everything that was impacting the budget, including all new requests and unavoidable items. And if you remember at that time, we were about an $8 million deficit. We then again met on April the 25th, and at that time we presented a balanced budget. However, there were some changes that was requested out of the Finance Committee, one of those being the Chromebooks for students, and also the 2% salary increase to be taken to 3.5%. So those items have been added back to the budget. After that meeting, we met with some county department employees. Our May 2nd meeting has been moved to May 9th. I believe at 2 p.m. will be the time. I'm guessing no one's really got the time yet, but I believe it'll be 2 p.m. At that meeting, we did speak about some alternative service level. That would be for our charter school children. As you all know, we have about 3,300 charter school children that we do get a portion of our local funding, and we're looking at some alternate level funding for those kids to help our budget. We also spoke with them about enhanced contingency funds. That was brought up to help us out with the state salary increases. As I said, we have the 3.5% in the budget. One suggestion could be that we leave, it all stays in there, but the 1.5% could be as a contingency, so that if that comes into fruition, the county would fund us that money. The good part about that, it would go into our fund balance, I mean, not our fund balance, but our formula the next year, so that would continue on. We're still looking at the budget and trying to make those cuts to present to you a balanced budget. Of course, we would have to have a special called Finance Committee and also a board meeting in order to pass the budget before May 9th to present to the county commissioners. So I know that's a big 35,000 foot level right now, but just to kind of give everybody where we are right now.
Can I ask a question?
Yes. Oh, yes.
So how would it look if we called a special Finance Committee meeting on May 6th? And then could we have a special called board meeting to go ahead and vote for the preliminary budget on that same day?
One of the things that we would do is, of course, you all will get a board book that has the budget in that. So when we present the balanced budget to you, if there were changes to be made, you would have to trust us to know that we will make those changes and then redo the book to you, because you will get it in an electronic format, and then you will also get a hard copy after you pass the budget this year. But Dion, I'm not for sure of the logistics of having them both the same night, if there's. Okay.
So I think that logistically, I think it would just be difficult with turnaround time if there are changes that are made to the budget. But again, just like you said, I think it would have to be, if the board approves whatever those changes are in the committee, the understanding is that those changes would have to be made at some point after the board meeting, because you wouldn't have time to make it before the called meeting, the full board meeting.
Correct. And once again, I just want to remind everyone, this is the preliminary budget. I fully expect us not to have the state monies and know what they're going to do probably till September or so.
Around the May 6th date, I just want to remind the board that there are 2 special committee meetings on Monday evening. We have school choice at 5 o'clock, and we have the climate, culture, and equity meeting at 6 p.m.
I know. And that might be a good time to have the special called meeting if we already have several board members here.
Again, not if it is before 4:30, because teachers that teach high school can't get there, any of the stakeholders can't get there, and I can't get there.
I did have just a clarifying question. This balanced budget that we have, which of the monies requested by the Formula Review Committee is included in that, if any?
Those at this time would not be included in that budget, because in order to pass a balanced budget, we have to have those funds ahead of time. So that would be an additional request on top of our budget.
So we would be making the continuation budget request, and we would be making a second request related to the additional funding that came out of the Formula Review Committee.
Dr. Simonton, can you clarify what we'll be asking for? Because we don't have slides or anything tonight, and I hate that for our audience, because as Mr. Jabar brought up, we have been looking at a lot of things happen in committee, and so we have had a PowerPoint that had a lot of that information up there for them to kind of follow. But in all of the things that I have seen, it has not been for the full just ask. It was something around the 15 million or so. Can you clarify what we will be presenting when we go before the commissioners?
In the Finance Committee, the recommendation that we presented was for a portion of the Formula Review Committee ask. Subsequent to that, the Finance Committee members asked that we include the total amount, and so that when we go to the county commissioners, we will present the continuation budget and the ask for the amount that was asked for from the Formula Review Committee, which was about $16 million for teacher supplement, another $16 million for classified employees, and $8.5 million for capital projects.
So my understanding is that we're going to ask for the entire 40.2, but we're going to break it down and
yes,
make it.
That is correct.
Yes. Thank you.
I have one other. So are we, just point of clarification, because I was confused. I think we've had some emails, and I want to make sure that I'm clear on. So in the information that we saw at the last budget meeting, we saw a 2% increase. So that would be if the state gave, we were looking for what we pay for in teacher salaries at 2%. I think we had some discussion at that meeting for it to be 3.5%. I just want to clarify what we're going toward or how we're doing that. And then I also just want to say that today the state proposed a 4.8% increase. So even with the two, and I know that they're going to go back and forth, but today it was proposed with 4.8%, and I think that's why we've seen some of the school districts around us looking at 5%. I just want to make sure. I know we have all that stuff. Are we going to talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the things that has also come out is they were also said that all other employees were going to receive a 1%.
Yes.
When we went back, and the reason we did the 2% is we looked back at what the state did last year, and they did an average of 8%. And that was about a 1.1 million increase, which averages to about 2% for us because of the difference. As you well know, we move a lot of our higher paid teachers to the state, and we keep the lower or the younger teachers on the local.
So you're saying at 2% we're still good,
We're
if
still-
they give an 8?
Right.
I'm just trying
Right.
to follow.
It depends how they're doing it, but we did leave the 3.5% in there just in case.
So what you're going to see at the next Finance Committee meeting is a request that the Finance Committee asked for, which was a 3.5% increase. So the update that you'll receive at whenever the next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled, you'll see a 3.5% increase.
So I just want to be really clear that the Formula Review Committee request is not in the first request budget
Correct.
at all. So what will go to the commissioners is two figures. It will be the continuation budget, which includes things like the increase percentage as the state for our employees.
Correct.
And then we will have a second budget request that will include all of the changes in teacher supplements, education support personnel.
Yes, as a part of that second request, there is some additional detail that we will share at the Finance Committee that will be important for the Finance Committee and the full board to understand as it relates to making that full request.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that the public who was here understood that there are two different requests being made on May 9th, and that the Formula Review Committee number is not included in the continuation budget that is the first request.
Correct.
Are there any questions or comments? I would just like to add, as I'm sitting here thinking about the quick turnaround between the May 6th and then the trying to get the budget ready by May 9th, if there's any adjustments to be made. And I'm not at all suggesting that anybody be rushed, but I think if on the district side, if there is an earlier output, I would be for calling a special call or emergency meeting to see it prior to May 6th to then give us more time to adjust for that May 9th presentation to the county. I don't know if anybody else have any thoughts about that, because it will affect our schedules to kind of be open from now until May 6th, before May 6th, potentially. So
I think we'll just have to look at the calendar of events. I think there's
Right.
several things going on in
We-
some community meetings,
Community
superintendent
forum,
meetings.
superintendent
So,
meetings on
The reason I
Saturday,
looked
on
at May
Thursday.
6th, yeah,
Okay.
because we had two other committee meetings, and I know about the timeframe, about the 4:30 or 4 o'clock. Is it possible to even have phone call accessibility? Maybe we could have a meeting that way for those who can't attend?
Still, it won't affect the fact that teachers can't make it because they can't get on the phone in the middle of their classrooms. It won't, most people who are employed can't get on the phone during their jobs, and I can't either while I'm driving.
So I think that probably as a board, we'll just have to have some further communication with the best timing or date for the budget meeting, but we're going to do our best to try to accommodate our board members, at least because that's our, duty here as board members.
Oh.
Yes.
And just one further point, that we're still, it feels like we're getting towards the end of a budget process, but we're actually really at the beginning of a budget process.
Right, it's still preliminary.
And I think that's really important to remember, that over the next few months, there are going to be lots of adjustments, and that this is really the beginning of it, not the end.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Elizabeth, board member Monsinger. I'm sorry. I think that as a board and as the community, we're just going to have to be patient with one another through this process. And it is hard work for our district, absolutely, and for our superintendent. And so what would be best is if I think we can all just be very patient to know we're just getting started, and we have to be with this for the long haul, if you will. So I appreciate the board's patience and the community's patience as we move through getting a balanced budget that is sufficient for all of our students and staff.
Madam Chair, as the board contemplates a special called finance committee meeting, given Dion's earlier comments, it would also be helpful if there's going to be a called finance committee meeting and a separate board meeting, that both of those dates be established at once. That would be helpful, or to let us know whether you intend to do both of those in a single meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Kim. I think we're. Yeah. Next, we have project impact grants with Ms. Kelly Bendham.
Good evening, Chairwoman Woodbury, school board members, and Dr. Symington. Thank you for having me here this evening. I'm typically up here with the Office of Early Learning, but tonight as interim program manager for Project Impact, I'm here to share with you the grant approvals that occurred at the Project Impact Board meeting, and to also submit those for you for your vote this evening. On February 26, 2019, I shared with you an update on Project Impact funding and implementation of programming to date with the data that goes along with those pieces we've already implemented. On April 11th, the Project Impact Board met and they approved continuation funding for several programming items and then new funding as well moving forward. And I want to share with you those new grant distribution requests that Project Impact Board approved and for me to present to you this evening. Those grants are centered around three main areas. They are pre-K expansion, transitions in summer programming, and then early learning. There's also the addition and the continuation funding for grants that were previously provided for Cook Literacy Model School. I'm going to begin by taking each area and kind of summarizing for you what those grants looked like a little bit more specifically. The pre-K expansion grants, Project Impact gave funding to continue funding for the 14 classrooms that are currently supported and funded by Project Impact funds. Those classrooms are at the following sites: Bolton, Middle Fork, Old Town, Rule Hall, Union Cross, Ashley, Cook, Hall Woodward, Easton, Gibson, Ibrahim, and Smith Farm. They also are giving additional funding for 3 new pre-K classrooms to be added based off of the pre-K steering committee recommendations. So thanks to that funding, we have increased access for hundreds of children in our district to pre-K programming. So I think that's pretty exciting. We also received funding from them to pursue licensure for our unlicensed pre-K classrooms. So when we have our licensed pre-K classrooms, we're looking at increasing the quality of the classroom, and we're also looking at sustainability of funding for ourselves as a district. When we become licensed, we then receive $473 per each student to cover the cost of that pre-K classroom. So while the grant funds are covering that funding now, when we become licensed, Those license funds help cover some of those costs to take the burden off of the district. So that's a sustainability feature that they're covering through their grant funding. The second area I want to mention that they provided funding for were the transitions and summer programming. So they voted to continue funding for Pathway to K and Pathway to 1 summer programs. Those programs are run at 9 sites and it creates 24 classrooms for our summer programming for our students going into kindergarten and our students who just finished kindergarten and are going into first grade. Each program serves around 240 students apiece. That's the goal for service, and so totaling around 480 students. The sites for this summer upcoming are Bolton, Gibson, Old Town, Kernersville, Spies, Kimberly Park, Petrie, Smith Farm, and Griffith Elementary. Also on top of that, with that work and the transitions work, we're currently serving 6 pre-K sites with Ready Freddy kindergarten curriculum. So these are events that occur at schools following the pre-K day and involve meals for families, materials for parent engagement sessions, and parent-child materials that can then be taken home and used at home. So families and parents work together with pre-K materials and with pre-K teachers, and they learn how to do things that they can then take home and use at home. The current sites for this work are Easton, Forest Park, Gibson, Kimberly Park, Kimmel Farm, Petrie, and Union Cross. The grant funds provided through Project Impact in this grant cycle are giving us additional funds to expand that work to more pre-K classrooms as we expand to more pre-K classrooms in the district. We're also working to continue consolidation and norming of the K registration process and continuing with the Countdown to K event that we have in January. Another area to look at is the area of early learning. They're going to continue the funding for the continuation of the reading research to classroom practice, which talks about the science of how children learn to read and the foundations of early reading. For our other half of our kindergarten teachers and beginning with our first grade teachers, early learning coaching support, which are our partners that work in kindergarten classrooms, and also pre-K coaching support, materials, and curriculum for our pre-K classrooms. Our pre-K coaches and their support are working heavily on social emotional learning and how we work with our students in our pre-K classrooms. And then finally, for the continuation of the Cook Literacy Model School work, having been a previous employee of Cook, I think it's really important. The funding that they provided for our summer programming there was instrumental. We use our staff from Cook to fund the summer programming, which is really important for relationships and continuity of relationships with students. And so our summer programming for Camp Pride and then for the Kickoff to K, there's continued funding for that, along with after-school programming on campus there at Cook, and then the CT3 piece. So all of that together kind of is a summation of what all of the grants were that the Project Impact Board approved.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? I just really want to emphasize that the community support is just so valuable to us because we do not have to worry about out of our budget these additions that we are able to offer our students because of the will of gifts from the community. So I just want the community to really know that we're able to do this because of philanthropy, because of the gifts that come from our community, not coming directly out of our budget.
Thank you.
I would just like to thank the board for Project Impact and what they have done for years and years and years to help us. They are to be applauded. Thank you.
They are. Thank you. Is that it?
Thank you. The next item for discussion is the Finance Committee report by Deanna Kaplan.
Well, a lot of it you've just heard with Ms. Slusher. But briefly, on February 23rd, a special finance meeting was called after the curriculum committee meeting. Kim Slusher did an excellent presentation to update all members with budget timelines, budget implications, governor's proposed budget highlights, Superintendent Mark Johnson's proposed recommendations, the county funding formula, along with salary implications for the budget that the state will mandate. This was strictly an information meeting which welcomed questions from the board. On February 25th, a special finance meeting was called to further discuss the budget. At that point, the budget with a 2% increase was factored in for salaries, and it was presented and balanced. We discussed what an additional 1.5% increase would look like in the event that the state requested a 3.5% increase. We also discussed the $40.2 million ask to the county commissioners requested from the Formula Review Committee. We voted to adopt a new county phone system with a one-time payment to come out of the fund balance, and there was discussion about putting student Chromebooks into the budget to comply with a request for a 5-year cycle to replace them. And with lively discussion, the meeting was adjourned.
Are there any questions, comments? The next item is the Building and Grounds Committee report from Board Member Leah Crowley.
Thank you. Buildings and Grounds met today at 4. We discussed and voted in favor of a roof replacement at Louisville Elementary, and we also discussed and voted on a kitchen renovation and a boiler replacement at Kernersville Elementary. We also closed the meeting just wanting to remind the public that we've been working in closed session on property for Ashley and for Brunson Elementaries. And it's not always reflected on the closed session agenda, so know that we are diligently pursuing both of those. And that we've been working with staff and the parent groups at Wiley and Reynolds Homefield Advantage on discussions about the RJR Stadium.
Thank you. The next item is the Policy Committee report from Board Member Lyda Calvert-Hayes.
We met today with our legal, Dion, and we thank you for going over everything with us on these policies. The first policy that we talked about was policy 4188, and that is our teacher contracts. As you know, right now we are looking at contracts for our teachers. So right now it's the season for contracts. So that was discussed. We talked about teacher performance and career status. We talked about determination of contract lengths, and we also talked about dismissal and non-renewal of contracts. We talked about policy 6161-3, which talks about guest speakers and groups coming into our schools. We talked about policy 9000, which is the bylaws of the Winston-Salem-Forsyth County Board of Education, and discussed on that the role of our education board.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Last, we have the Curriculum Committee report by Board Member and Vice Chair Barbara Burke.
Good evening. On April 23rd, the Curriculum Committee met. We started off with our Chief Technology Officer, Kevin Sherrill, introducing a rock star teacher from Jefferson Elementary School, Matthew Snow. Matthew shared with the committee the practice of solving problems using the Prometheum board, and in addition to that, he shared resources for supporting student personalized learning. Brittany Guy also talked about standards-aligned personalized learning with engaging instruction that pairs appropriate digital tools for students. After that, we had an elementary program update from our elementary managers. We started out with David Delayed from Science, and he gave us the highlights, but he also said that we need to work on making more time for science, making sure we have adequate instructional time for science. Rebecca McKnight from our Social Studies Department also said the same. We need to make sure we dedicate adequate time for social studies. Dr. Karen Keir from ELA discussed pockets of success with kindergarten through second grade and third through fifth grade. She shared data, and she discussed the district's concerns, as we all are aware, with third grade literacy. Mrs. Velvet Symington, math manager, reported good news, and she gave us the good news about third grade EOG, grade level proficiency, increasing by 2.5% up to 57.1%. She also told us about third grade mathematics progressing from meeting expected growth to exceeding expected growth. Additionally, she told us that the EVOS index of 6.89 is the highest of any of our Winston-Salem-Forsyth County EOCs and EOGs. Last but not least, we invited Feeling Friends, which is a program founded by Karen Cuthrell. This program is aligned to Common Core standards, and it addresses social emotional learning needs for our students. We thoroughly enjoyed this motivating and engaging presentation of this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Our next order of business is action items. We have several items. First, is there a motion to approve all of the project impact grants, which include Cook Learning, the Cook Elementary School after-school learning, Cook CT3, Cook Elementary summer programming, early learning partners, early learning professional development, pathway to 1, pathway to K, pre-kindergarten expansion, transitions programming.
Second.
Are there any questions or any discussion? All in favor? I think that's unanimous. The next item is the approval of the 2018-19 calendar revision, which based on the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve forgiveness of forced student instructional hours for May 1st, 2019.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion, any questions? All in favor? All right. The next item is approval of the bids for the kitchen renovation and boiler replacement at Kernersville Elementary School.
And I would like to abstain from that.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor? And did you get board member like, okay. Next, we have approval of the bid for, approval of the roof replacement project for the 1947 building at Louisville Elementary School.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor? All right. Next, we have approval of the replacement IP phone system.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor? Lastly, we have the approval of the budget amendment number 6 and transfer number 6.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor? All right.
Abstain.
Did you get that, Alex? Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda items. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes for April 9th, 2019 and the general personnel report?
Motion to approve.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor? Thank you. Before we begin the section of our meeting in which anyone can comment on anything, we say good night to our Cable 2 viewers. Thank you for watching. This concludes our broadcast. At this time, we will open the meeting to those of you.
Thank you for joining us on your school channel, Cable 2.